So compounded interest is when a bank pays interest on both the principal and the interest in an account has already earned. So we can see we have a formula for calculating the amount of money that an account will accumulate, and it looks similar to the exponential growth equation that we had, because we have A is the amount that we end up with, P is the principal, so that's the original amount, R is our interest rate, N refers to the number of periods per year that interest is compounded. So that says how many times a year is the bank looking at is sort of saying, okay, this is the amount of money in your account, you're earning interest on that amount. That refers to the number of periods per year that interest is compounded. So if they say, okay, your interest is compounded annually, so every year, at the end of each year, they say, okay, you're earning interest on this amount now. And T is the time in years. So when interest is compounded, you have to divide the interest rate given by the number of interest periods per year. To find the number of total payment periods, you multiply the number of years by the number of interest periods per year. So let's say, if it's annually, there's only one period per year. So if you have an interest rate of 8%, you're earning 8% every year. If it's semi-annually, that means twice a year. That means that there's 2 pay periods a year, and you split it in half. So if you earn 4% every 6 months. Similarly, quarterly, 4 periods a year. So you divide 8% by 4. You get 2% every 3 months. And if you have a monthly, if your interest is compounded monthly, there's 12 periods per year. And so you earn 0.6 repeating percent every month. So with that in mind, let's do a couple of practice problems. So number 1, suppose you deposit $1,000 in a fund that pays 7.2% interest, compounded annually, so that tells me yearly. This is a bit too thick. Okay. Find the account balance after 5 years. So it's asking me for the end amount, but then it also asks me how much interest was earned. Okay, so first things first, let me think about my formula that I have. Okay, so A is equal to P times 1 plus R over N to the NT. I recommend writing out the general formula as we start to do these problems, because the more you write it, the more you'll remember it, and you'll be able to identify what you already know. So what do I already know? My original amount, P, was equal to $1,000. My interest rate is equal to 0.072. Again, remember we have to write it as a decimal. N is the number of periods per year. Since it's compounded annually, it only happens once per year, so that's equal to 1. And T is equal to 5. So I plug in because I want to find A. And when you solve, you'll get A is equal to 1,415.708784. But remember, with money, we have to round to the second decimal place. So A, our ending amount, will be about $1,415.71. But then it also asks how much interest was earned. So how can you figure out just the dollar amount of interest? You subtract, I'm going to do this in a different color, subtract the end amount, so your A value, subtract your principal from your A value. So you'll see that you earned $415 $200.71 in 1 year. Okay? Let's look at number 3. So, you deposit $200 into an account earning 5% compounded monthly. So, compounded monthly tells us that there are 12 periods in a year because there are 12 months in a year. So, this tells me that n is equal to 12 right off the bat. So, what else did this tell me? That $200 was my principal, was my original amount, and 5% is my rate. How much will be in the account after 7 years? So this is our time, and it's asking us to find the end result. So I'm writing out my formula. A is equal to P times 1 plus R over N times to the N times T. So I know P is equal to $200, R is equal to 0.05, N is equal to 12, and T is equal to 7. So when you solve, you should get A is equal to 283.6072104. And again, we have to round to the second decimal place, to the 100th place. So you'll get that the end amount is about $283.61. And that's all we have to do for number 3. I'm going to skip down to number 6 because there's something that's slightly different that we want to talk about. So, the formula for continuously compounded interest. So, the word continuously means that the interest, that your principal is constantly earning interest and the interest keeps earning on. So, if you think about our previous example, so when it's compounded annually, you earn interest once a year based off of the money that's in your account. When it's compounded monthly, you earn money based off of what's in your account every month. When it's compounded continuously, you keep earning interest constantly, continuously throughout every single year. You're earning money based off of what's in your account. So the formula is slightly different. So it is equal to A is equal to P times E to the RT. So this E is not a variable. E is actually an irrational number that is about equal to, what is it off the top of my head? I believe it's 2.71 and going on. So if there's actually a button on your calculator that will give you the number E, and E is actually called Euler's number. It has a lot to do with logarithms, but you don't have to worry about that just yet. But just know that you don't have to plug anything in for E. E is a number in itself. You just have to be able to use it on your calculator. Okay, so, and A, P, R, and T are all the same. But you'll see that there's not an N value. There's not an N value because your interest is compounding continuously. So there's not a number of times during a year that your interest is compounded. It's always happening. So that's why we're using E instead of an N. So using the formula, determine to the nearest dollar the amount in the account after 8 years if $750 is invested at an annual rate of 3%. So Here, our formula is different. Some people refer to it as PERT because you can see that it spells out PERT. So we're trying to find A. I know that P is equal to $750, if I can write it correctly. I don't have to plug anything in for E. R is equal to 0.03, and T is equal to 8. So to solve for A, I just plug in. So again, on your calculator, you would find the E value, and then you would raise it to 0.03 times 8. And when you do that, you get 750 times E to 0.24. And you'll end up with 953.4368627, which is about $953. You'll see here I didn't round to the second decimal place. Why didn't I? Because if you look at the instructions, they said to the nearest dollar. So always round to whatever the question is asking you to. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this problem. So again, continuously compounded, there's not a period, there's not an end value because it's constantly sort of refreshing itself and updating, and you're constantly earning interest throughout the year.